Can you tell me more about what you work, what kind of cases you have, about your team?
Oh, I'd love to. And we're so happy to have you here visiting from Sofia, Bulgaria, as an IAFL fellow, and we're both fellows of the International Academy of Family Lawyers, and we do have quite an international team. We're 15 attorneys here based in Beverly Hills, and then we primarily do a lot of high net worth divorce cases here in Beverly Hills and in the Los Angeles area.
So you mean like you have cases that are with cross-border clients, and these are mainly the cases you have?
We do a lot of both, and so it's really interesting in the Los Angeles area and the Beverly Hills area. You'll have high net worth individuals that are they have a bunch of, maybe they have their children living one place or they have assets elsewhere. We see a lot of people come from China, for example. They may have assets and businesses in China, assets here, but then they're getting divorced here. And that's very common with high net worth families in Los Angeles. So that's one part of cross-border cases that we do. And then we also we do your traditional domestic divorces where and custody disputes. So we do a mix of both international cases and purely domestic cases as well.
Yes. And do you have also abduction cases?
Yes, yeah.
Does it happen often?
I think it happens all throughout on both sides. So we're helping clients that unfortunately their children were abducted to a foreign country, and then we're helping parents that maybe their kids are being withheld here. So even in this last month, for example, we went to San Jose and we're enforcing Austrian court orders. Because there's a 2-tier process that you can do. There's different methods if you're enforcing here.
What are they?
So in the U.S. you can do a private Hague Convention where you're bringing an action not through the district attorney's office, which is one option, but you can also just take your orders that you have from the other country. You can register them here in California, and then we can enforce those orders here.
By yourself? You don't need authority for that?
Through the court system. We asked the court to recognize that this was, like, in that case, a lawful Austrian court order, and that court had jurisdiction, and then order that this court has only the authority to order the mother to comply and return the children to the father, for example. And then there is a process of enforcement.
And what is the prolongation of both? Which one you prefer to use?
I think whichever makes the most sense for the case. Some in that case it made sense because there was already pre-existing orders. Sometimes with the Hague Convention case there might not be orders. So going through the Hague Convention process makes better sense because it's very clear that the other country had jurisdiction over this child. So it's just a straight return to the other country, and let that country sort it out. But when you have orders, sometimes it's easier and quicker because we can file it, we register the orders, and then we can file on an emergency basis enforcement proceedings.
Oh, so it can be really quick?
It can be, yeah. Although it still takes time, it's the court system, as we all know. But it could take, depending on when the orders are registered. If they're already been registered, you can get a ruling within a day. But sometimes it can take longer. I've seen it take 2 to 3 weeks.
So when we talk about execution of the court order, let's say about European court order that should be executed here. So how it works? How you enforce it step by step? I mean, how long it takes? Is it a successful procedure? Do you any obstacles do you meet?
In Bulgaria, if we had a Bulgarian order, for example, we would take the order. We'd have to have it officially translated, and we have to have it apostilled from Bulgaria. And then that could be for custody, it could be for support, child support, it could be for division of an asset. And we would register it here in California, and then we would initiate a process for custody, for example. If we had a Bulgarian court order we were enforcing here, we would notice a hearing most likely on an emergency basis if it qualifies. And then the court will make a ruling on that usually has to make a ruling within the same day or the next court day, depending on when they get it. That ruling can be, we'll grant it, we're ordering the children back. It could be we want to set another hearing date, or it could be a denial. But that's how that process works. And then the Hague Convention, you go through the Hague Convention process, which is different.
Okay, and once it is enforceable, and we are about to take the child from the mother and to return the child back to the left behind father, in this case. So how it happens actually? Who is the one who goes to the house of the mother, takes the child and brings the child back to the other?
We've had some pretty contentious cases. We had cases where we were enforcing orders where we literally had to call the police department in the city, and we had to send letters to their attorneys saying we're demanding that you enforce this, because ultimately it's the police here that will enforce court orders, but they don't want to do it a lot of times. And so, but they're obligated to enforce the lawful court orders. So usually what that looks like is they will go, there's a couple options, but a parent can go, for example, if they know the child's at school and they have the court order with the police officer, the school has to turn them over. We want to avoid putting the child in a dramatic situation, because this is very damaging for the child too.
Exactly. So you use psychologists, I guess, and social workers to talk to the child and to explain the situation?
That's really on the parent. We recommend that they do that. That's not usually an order of the court. The courts don't get that deep into it. They can order it under the family code. They can order counseling and therapy, but in my experience, that's really left up to the parent to do in those types of cases.
And do you have, in these situations, do you face parental alienated kids that were alienated from the other parent?
I had a case once involving Mexico where the only way that my client got the child back was there was a tip, because we went through the Hague Convention process with Mexico. We had court orders here. The district attorney's office, which is the prosecutor, was enforcing. And he just got a tip because this person was living with somebody and they were disgruntled, and they told him where they were at in Mexico. And then the FBI went and worked with the Mexican authorities to retrieve the child. Wow. But that child was very parentally alienated. It took a lot of counseling and recovery for the child. And that's one situation. But in general, I think in all child custody cases, parental alienation can be something that you see in a large majority of them, and it's really unfortunate.
But is it parental? Is it how it's called?
Parental alienation. Here too, yeah. Is it called that in Bulgaria?
Yeah, this is how we call it in Bulgaria. Sometimes they call it parental alienation syndrome. Okay, then we decided that it is not syndrome because there are not the clinical requirements for that. Yeah, so we use parental alienation. But in some European countries, they started to use alienating behavior instead of parental alienation, because you know, sometimes it could be parental alienation, but sometimes it's estrangement. Yeah. So it could be another reason. So so that's why I'm asking what is in the law. So the law uses this term.
It doesn't. There really isn't hard and fast laws in California about parental alienation. The way that the court on an initial child custody determination has to make a decision is the best interest of the child. So that's to find what's their best health, welfare, and safety. So if one parent is alienating the child, that's evidence that we would show to the court, and then the court would consider that in its best interest decision. But it doesn't, if you prove parental alienation, it's not an automatic, under the law, that there's some kind of a change.
Okay, and how you prove it?
With psychologists, typically. So you get a, I mean, that's the best way that you can prove it, but also just a parent can describe the behavior that, for example, the child comes back from the other parent's house and they tell them horrible things about them, and that the mother's saying that this terrible, that your father is this way or that way. All these, the manipulations of the children, and then the child sadly is being placed in the middle, and that's really the worst. And then the remedy a lot of times in our court is therapy. The law in California is for a presumption of frequent and continuous contact. So the court wants to get therapy to resolve the situation.
What does it mean, frequent continuous contact?
Exactly what it sounds like. So it's not defined. But the way it's interpreted is to say that there's a presumption that the parents should have 50-50 custody.
Okay, the presumption. So you do have presumption.
It's not specific presumption, I would say. It says frequent and continuous contact, and the way that that's interpreted today, within the last 5 to 10 years, is 50-50.
So for how long you have it? 5 to 10 years?
It's been on the books for a long time, but the way that the judges now are interpreting that is 50-50. Before that, they didn't necessarily interpret it that way, but I think what our bench does a great job of is they have lots of training and they have lots of classes, and they do this through the Judicial Council of California. So we've seen as that more and more the trainings have developed, there's more consistency throughout the state on how it's all applied.
So this is about the contact and the physical care. But what about the judicial part of the parenthood? Who takes the decisions? Do you have in your law division of important decisions, daily decisions, urgent decisions? And who is the responsible parent for that?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious in Bulgaria how they do that as well.
We don't have any.
Oh, really?
Any rule. This is what we try to change now.
So yes, it's you have legal custody, which is decision-making power, and physical custody, which is the amount of time.
Yes.
So I imagine in Bulgaria, it's just whoever has the kids makes the decision.
Yes, exactly. Authorize everything, and it is
and then the
kind
other
of
parents cut out.
Yes, and the other parent is just on notification.
I think it's, there's the way the law is written, and then there's the reality of how it's applied. And so every family is different. So you can have a situation where the parents have joint legal custody, which is equal decision-making power. But let's say, for example, just hypothetically, the mother has the children 65% of the time. I see families when that happens that de facto, let's say the mom starts making it, but on big high-level decisions, maybe they're making it jointly. Then you have parents that are true 50-50 parents, where they're maybe at 1 week at one house, 1 week at the other house. And then what they do is that those parents maybe are better at co-parenting and making equal decisions. But the reality is every family is different. So you have the broad idea, and by having legal custody, and this is something in Bulgaria, to interject, because I know what you do is you really are a pioneer in getting law changed in Bulgaria.
That's why I'm asking these questions, because I try to change the situation in Bulgaria in order not to put one of the parent on to subordinate one of the parent, because in my point of view they should be absolutely equal, and we cannot just. Because in Bulgaria, what happens now? If the mother decides to move the child to another another part of the country, she just go register the child, choose address, school, etc., and then the father just gets an email and he knows that his child doesn't live anymore in Sofia, let's say, and that they move to the other part of the country.
So in California, and I'll wrap up with this a little bit, but in California, you can't move a child necessarily outside of where they're living. So there's LA County is huge. There's 12 million people in LA County, or even more than that now. I think that may be the city's population. But you have one end of Los Angeles that is near Long Beach, and you have another end of Los Angeles that goes all the way up to, kind of near Valencia, which is, so you've got like huge spread, 20 miles sometimes. That itself, you can't move the child from one end of the city even to the other end of the city without permission from the judge. And then that there's a process where they do a psychological evaluation, either through a state psychologist or a private one, and come to they consider all sorts of different factors as to what if the parent's going to move, who should be the primary parent. So that doesn't happen in Bulgaria.
No, in Bulgaria everybody can move, everybody can decide on the medical. For example, vaccination. I had a case about vaccine during COVID. The father decided to put vaccine on the child when the child was 10, and then for the second shot, the mother, once she knew about that, she made such a big mess about that. She started domestic violence cases, stuff like that. And then we went to the court to ask for permission of the court for the second vaccine, a second shot, because it was dangerous for the child to stay without the second one. And then the court said, but you're the father, you can do whatever you want. You have, by law, you have equality, but actually it doesn't work like that. So what I want to say is that each parent can take all the decisions by himself without discussing with the other party. So what is the problem is that I had the cases. On Monday, the mother chose one school, and on Tuesday, the father changed the school for the child. And at the end, for the first school day, the child doesn't.
And how does the court deal with that? Do they get involved, or they just say you
they
sort it out yourself?
They just say you both have these rights.
And the kids are the ones who suffer.
And exactly. I had.
So do you mediate that stuff?
We try to mediate that stuff, and also we try to. This is the only. And now I try to change I try to influence the government to change the law, because I would like to avoid these kind of situations, because this is only what happened in my personal experience as lawyer, but also but it happens to every day. So this is how we try to deal, just to change. That's why I try to explain Bulgarian people that they need that change, because if it is written in the law that you cannot move the child without permission, neither in another state, neither in another city. If it's written that both parents should choose on the school or travels, documents, etc., then this means equality. Then you should find a way to discuss the issue and to reach a solution on that. And we have it, but if you go to the court with one case like that, it takes 2 or 3 years. So it means that 2 or 3 years the child cannot change the school, for example. So that's why in the new draft law, the one that we support now, is in 3 to 5 days the judge to reach the decision about a question that
sounds like it's needed.
They didn't manage to reach.
And I think that is something that I would say with Los Angeles in particular. Things go real fast in LA in the court system. Okay. That's different than even other parts of California, but they move the court cases in family law along really quickly, much quicker than other cases, because they know there's no statutory deadlines for most of the things, but they just know that if it's sitting, this is not good. And I've worked in other counties too, where things can take a lot slower outside of LA, but it's so nice having you, Yordanka, here in Beverly Hills.
Such a pleasure for
thanks
me.
for being our guest.
Thank you very much, and I really appreciate our time together. I learned so much from you, and thanks for everything.
Likewise, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about the international mediation process at our IAFL conference.
Once we are in Istanbul next month, I'm going to talk more about that. And at that moment, I probably will tell you what is the situation with our government if we manage to change the law in Bulgaria. So thank you very much.
Thank you too. So inspiring.
Thank you.
Thanks.